Sairam Ken, thank you very much. You brought a little tear to my eye there. uh, Thank you for the opportunity today. Thank you to Aparna and all of the coordinators and everyone working on this, and my loving, heartfelt um, everything to Swami. Uh, this is for you as well of all of us as for our first for Swami. I was very inspired by uh, the last speaker, wonderful stories. And it's interesting. She said something that really jumped out to me, how I came to SSE. Um, so I am, as you can tell from my hair, I'm starting to get older. I'm 53 very soon. And luckily, somehow, out of all the grains of sand on the beach, Swami picked up one little grain and it happened to be me. And I was very lucky with a mother that happened to be involved in SSE and taught me and practiced on me. And that's how much work I needed. So I have grown up from a very young age in SSE. It took many years to straighten this person out, but through love and through Swami's love, anything is possible. And I cannot say, I am lucky to be associated with everyone on this call in one form or another. You are all very, very, very blessed. Swami has picked you. This is the primary basis of restoring Dharma in the world. The primary basis is SSE and SSE teachers, and how we first be, next do, and how we practice everything that he tells us. That's the key to everything, is that we model and are the thing that we actually teach. And so SSE, I thought I would never be involved necessarily in SSE. And one day, my mother, Patricia Wing, happened to be SSE coordinator for Region 8, and I was her chauffeur. And I drove her to a new perspective class. And I helped her out of the car. I got things for her. I was there just really to serve her. And I was sitting in the back waiting, listening to her talk to this new person that was going to start a new group. And the person, I could hear them talking, and I was listening and, in the back, just wondering what she might need. And all of a sudden she says, "Oh, you don't have a group three teacher? Eric can be the group 3 teacher. He's been trained. I've trained him. He can do it." And of course, she looks at me and I said, "Well, yeah, sure, I can be SSE group 3 teacher." And thus began, like our last speaker, thus began, somehow we are either brought in through various different methods. I was brought in by chance, thank God, and it's made the greatest impact on me. As we all know, what is greater, maybe other than Swami's darshan, than looking at children, teaching children, being associated with teachers, being associated with this organization that's reestablishing Dharma on this planet, part of the triple avatar that has never come, that will never come again, and somehow we have all been chosen. Our luck is beyond what we could ever think. Never forget that. Some of you may have 1 or 2 students, some of you may have 20, some of you may assume that nothing is happening, but look at all of us. There's 420 people on this call. We're here because of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai's love. Maybe he's touched us, maybe he came in a dream, maybe we were lucky enough to talk to him and see him. And how many in our lives, how much time have we spent with Swami? Some of us maybe minutes, maybe some longer if we're lucky. Maybe some of us never got to see Swami, but somehow or another, that very small amount of time in my life, it's moments that I've been with Swami, but it has changed the course of my entire life. I think about what impact he has had on me and what I might teach or what I might talk to somebody, or in that moment I might love them. How will their heart change? We are changing generations with our sweetness. It's it's um it's hard to put into words. So for me, my heart, Swami is King Midas. King Midas came along and I happened to be just sitting there and he touched my heart. He looked in my eyes and I fell madly in love with him, madly. And it is the greatest moment of my life. And so, who are we to know how we are changing society? The smallest thought, the smallest teaching, and that's why we have to be so pure. We have to be so dedicated. We have to give everything we have, and even things we don't think we can give everything to this. This is the greatest role. And so, all I can say is that he's always with us. And I'll tell you a nice story that will explain that. So, for my job earlier in my life, I had to do a lot of driving. And when I drove, I would either listen to tapes or sing songs, or I was very fortunate. I got to work on a project one time where I was listening to, I don't know if anybody knows Dr. Hislop, but he had given many talks, and I had like 80 different talks that I had to, for this project, I had to listen to all of them. And it just, the stories were unbelievable. But one day I'm driving up a winding road here in Ojai, California, which is where I live. And for whatever reason, and we all know this, we could be sitting right in Puttaparthi looking at Swami, but we also can have those same divine feelings, even just driving in the car, or for whatever reason. Everyone on this call knows what I mean. And so I was in this very blissful state. I was singing, and I happened to be driving up this winding road, and I looked under this. So I was going on the outside of this turn, and on the inside was a very large truck that comes in two parts. One is with the truck, and then it has a trailer, and then it has another. And it was sometimes carries dirt or rocks, something like that. I looked under the tire when I was driving, and I could see he was cutting too close to the mountain and was going to hit the mountain, and the back trailer was going to bounce into my lane. And just as I saw this, I looked up at the driver, and the driver looked down at me. And you know how sometimes in a big truck like that, you bounce, that's a bouncy seat. And he was turning, looking down at me. And the same second, I turned off. Instead of turning around the corner, I went straight on the little turnout. And I turned and I looked, and then I looked back, and I was looking at the bottom of the back trailer. When it hit the mountain, it had gone 10 to 15 feet in the air because it was being pulled around, and it would have gone right on my car. I was looking at the bottom of the tires. It had to be more in the air than my car was even. But at the same time, I was getting out of the way as this was coming into my lane. And immediately, I pulled over and I said, Swami, thank you. Thank you so much, Swami. You saved me. Thank you. Thank you. And I sat there for a moment, and then I drove a little bit more and I pulled off again and I said, Swami, thank you. You saved me. And so a couple years later, I took my first trip to Puttaparthi in 1995. And even though I had grown up with Swami as my form, this was my first time seeing him. And so I was pulled in and called. It's a long story. I wish I could tell it all, but for time's sake, I'm going to cut it down just a little bit. And I asked to go into the interview, and he knocked me on the head and he said, wait. And I said, yes, Swami, I can wait. And he looked back and he said, go. And so we got called into the interview room. Many things happened, really the greatest moment of my life to be with him in that room. And he called us into the smaller room. And he very sweetly, I walked to the other side of the room, and I was waiting because I thought maybe it's rude. The mind is so funny. It's rude to sit before Swami. So I walked to the other in the smaller interview room, and he looked at me as he came through the door, and he walked right towards me, never losing sight of my eyes. and he took my hand and he walked back and he closed the door and he put the spoon through the latch to lock it, never letting go of my hand. And then he walked over and he fell in his seat and he pulled me with him, and I went under his chair almost, but I was almost on, right as close as I am to this camera. And he looked at me and he said, good boy, good boy. And he pinched me and he said, do you remember those 2 times I saved you? And this is what he did. He acted exactly like the driver. No one could know that. Even I had almost forgotten the image until he did it. And he did it because he is the driver. He did it exactly like the driver. And I looked, my mother and my wife were with me at the moment, and I said, see, I told you he saved me. It's a very sweet moment. And so, and then he looked at me again and he went, good boy, good boy. And so that is why I can say that I know for sure he is with us at every single moment. No matter what we think of ourselves, we may think that we're not smart enough, or we're not good speakers, or there are things that we should improve about ourselves. None of that matters. Don't consider yourself any of that. You are handpicked for a reason. Your only goal is to try your best, to love him with all of your heart, to see the children as Swami himself. We're not teaching others' children, we are teaching Swami. It is only his grace that we get to learn more about ourselves, we get to change ourselves, and somehow or another, we are involved in this great mission. And all I can say is give everything you possibly can to your role. Give it, it's a life's mission. It's everything. So all I can say is I see the number down there, 417 people, and I just wish I could look you all in the face and tell you how much I love you. I respect you. I'm inspired just to be on this call. And thank you so much for the opportunity, Sairam.